if your HOA has an HOA? That's right, 2 HOAs, 1 neighborhood, and a developer running both of them. Anastasia Olmos is the investigative reporter who's been looking into homeowners associations in general, and this one where the developer was essentially running the show, and it all comes down to, was it really still complete as a neighborhood, or was there a second developer? Tell us the story.
This is one of those stories where I kind of kept putting off because I was so daunted by how many documents I was going to have to dig into, and I knew that legally we had to tiptoe and make sure that everything was right, and so this took me a long time. But if you can tell by this story that you're about to listen to watch, and even if you want to go read it online, it is complex, and these homeowners have spent so much time trying to figure out what is going on in their own community and why they are somehow divided.
I love it, and see how peaceful it is back here.
Margaret Wright calls this her forever home.
Welcome to my porch, my little private oasis.
A peaceful place to sit and enjoy the retirement she'd worked so hard to reach. She bought it in 2018, looking specifically for a 55 and older community.
I was told at the time that there were 99 lots over 55, clubhouse, pool, and I said, great.
Fast forward 7 years and 4 building phases later,
we were misled.
The Creekside at Old Town in Conyers, Georgia isn't age restricted, but that's not why they're worried.
Our biggest fear for phase 1 is losing our homes. These were our forever homes.
It's the HOA fees that have more than doubled since they've moved in.
We were told that as houses were sold, it would start to go down. You're talking about very seasoned seniors in phase 1 on very fixed incomes.
After repeatedly asking to take over their HOA, homeowners from all phases hired a lawyer and found out that the community was actually built by 2 different builders and has 2 different HOAs. The original builder is Arcadia Partners, owned by Chris Brogdon. A property manager for the subdivision told Atlanta News First Investigates that Brogdon ran out of money after building the first phase. Court documents show Brogdon sold phases 2, 3, and 4 to another builder and created a separate HOA, but he continued to run both HOAs through a management company called Real Manage.
Phase 1, he had raised them to 275. And we were 228 and 2, 3, and 4. So our question was, why have you raised them to 275 when we all have the same amenities? We were like, listen, if you do not bring them back to 228, we're not going to pay. And so he brought them back down to 228.
We're not naming the second builder because they're not affiliated with Brogdon and have since turned over the second HOA to homeowners. Prior to this investigation, homeowners say they had never seen financial statements.
We have no idea where our money is going each month, other than if we don't pay it, a lien could be put on our homes.
Atlanta News First Investigates uncovered this very community is referenced in a United States Securities and Exchange Commission fraud case against Brogdon. In 2015, the SEC accused him of a 2-decade-long nursing home investment scheme, alleging he took nearly $200 million from investors to fraudulently develop dozens of nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and retirement communities in several states. They say he used the money for a, quote, lavish lifestyle. A court ordered him to pay $90 million back to investors. Brogdon's response to the accusations is sealed in court records, and he didn't respond to us when we requested them. 2 years later, in 2017, while the SEC was trying to collect the money, he and his wife filed for bankruptcy. That same year, his company, Arcadia Partners, began building Creekside at Old Town in Conyers. Court records reveal additional legal accusations against Brogdon. He's named as a defendant in several lawsuits by families of nursing home residents as well as venture capital firms in several states. In some cases, documents show Brogdon claimed there were errors and issues of fact. Other cases settled in confidential consent agreements or were dismissed for various reasons. Court documents also show the HOA at the St. Regis in Buckhead, Georgia, filed to foreclose on Brogdon's personal $5 million condo for his unpaid HOA dues in 2023. A judge dismissed the case, stating the HOA never officially served Brogdon with the lawsuit. Brogdon's also a co-founder of the popular Georgia restaurant chain J. Christopher's. The landlord at the Buckhead location is suing him for allegedly not paying rent for years. Brogdon is denying most of the claims and asking the judge to throw out the case, according to court records. Brogdon has not responded to Atlanta News First Investigates emails or phone calls.
It's just a complete mess out here.
I just want to be retired.
Phase 1 homeowners also requested to take over their HOA, but emails from Real Manage state Brogdon won't turn it over until his loan to the association is paid back and delinquent accounts are made current.
We have no representation, no voice, but we have to pay money.
According to the HOA's bylaws, Brogdon controls the HOA for 20 years or until all of the lots are sold. We matched the plat map with tax records and found Brogdon still owns 13 lots in Phase 1.
But as you can see, the most might be one house here, but you'd have to build it up. This is where the creek is.
According to a voice recording between a homeowner and the builder of phases 2, 3, and 4, Brogdon wanted to sell the remaining lots in phase 1 to them as well, but they didn't take them because they couldn't build on them.
You see that there's no way.
Homeowners fear Brogdon is holding on to the lots and the HOA.
I believe as he could have sold these lots, he would have.
When we looked up real estate records in the community, we found hundreds of deed filings, most transferring ownership through deeds between Brogdon's different companies. At the same time, the SEC was trying to collect from him, and he and his wife filed for bankruptcy. The Brogdons and Real Manage did not return our calls or emails.
It's a scary situation.
Margaret says she and her neighbors don't have the money for a legal fight.
Maybe half of us are now single. We've lost our spouses since we've been out here.
Georgia law allows an HOA to foreclose on a home when they owe more than $2,000.
The thought of me losing my home over $2,000 in debt is scary. I want to stay in my home. Honestly, I don't know if I can now.
Atlanta News First Investigates has not found any HOA liens filed in the community as of November 2025.
What are homeowners' options here?
Great question. So the HOA that was able to take over the phases 2, 3, and 4, and I know that's such a weird name, but it's literally what it is in the documents. Phases 2, 3, and 4 HOA, the homeowners were able to take over. They are now working with the management company to try to figure out what's gone on with the money. But phase 1, the most seniors in the community, they're trying to figure out what their rights are, and they can't afford an attorney to go to court and fight to take over. So what they're forced with doing now is looking closely at their covenants and their bylaws, those are the governing documents, and looking at what's called the declarant, so the owner of their community, which is the builder, Chris Brogdon at this point, what are his responsibilities? And honestly, in reading through those documents, it says that there's supposed to be a board, and it says that the board is supposed to have a president, a vice president, a secretary. It says there's supposed to be votes in the community, and there's supposed to be annual meetings. And the residents say that those things have not happened. So in this case, if they are not following through on their end of the governing documents, that is something that can be challenged so that homeowners can take over. But as we've reported again and again, here in Georgia, there is no office that oversees homeowners associations. So even, in reaching out to the Attorney General's office, their consumer division there, looking at, have you had any complaints on this specific builder or this specific community? They did have some people write in, but they told them this is not a matter that we investigate. You will have to take this to a legal level. And so in this case, these homeowners would have to go to court in order to take over their community.
It's just fascinating. And there is legislation that's pending in the next legislative cycle that could actually fix that in terms of having more responsibility, or at least an ombudsman or someone to go to, correct?
So I went to the Senate Rules Committee hearing in the fall for SB 361. And at that actual meeting, dozens of homeowners showed up to speak out against their HOAs, but also the Secretary of State sent a representative to give recommendations on how their office could create a section for homeowners, which would require them to not only register as a nonprofit, but to have to pay a fee and to be held responsible to turn in their financial documents. And there would be some sort of oversight of making sure that they act within their own governing documents. And that was just one part of the bill. One other thing is that the fines reach $2,000, they can possibly file to foreclose on your home. This bill would raise that to $4,000 and would not allow fines or fees to be included. So you can't just fine a resident and then foreclose on their home at any amount. It is only your annual dues if you aren't paying that, and it would be raised to $4,000.
So as
some
it stands,
protections.
yeah, but as it stands right now, they can fine you. Fines and sort of late penalties on the fines can add up to $2,000 or more, and then they can put a lien on your house and foreclose on your house.
At any dollar amount, there really is no cap in the state of Georgia
Wow.
of what your HOA can fine you, unless you take them to court and prove that the amount and the fine were not reasonable. But as
Yeah.
I mentioned, that's on your own dime.
So let's back up. Your advice constantly has been to pull not only the covenants, which most people get a copy of from their realtor or somebody doing the due diligence during the purchase process, but very few people check the bylaws, and those are essentially the rules that the HOA and the HOA board as a corporation have to follow, but they're the rules that they set up. And I think it's important to point out that almost all of these are written by the initial developer to begin with. And unless those are changed by a subsequent board, very often I've seen multiples of these where the developer has like super shares, where they're essentially, until the last property, the last lot is sold and developed, the developer has control. Now, the reason for that is because the developer's the one taking all the risk, right? They're building out the neighborhood. And so the developer should have the right, until the neighborhood is complete, to sort of direct how the neighborhood is run and looks. But once that last lot is done, then usually the developer automatically in those bylaws relinquishes control, and then the board takes over. But as we've seen, like in this case, that doesn't always happen.
Right. And I mean, we tried to show from that aerial view, there's a lot of the community that is not built out. He still owns a lot of these lots that supposedly he cannot build on. And so we actually reached out to try to get anybody to talk to us. And in some of these records, I did find that there were deed transfers to a G&G Investors investment company. And I found that person who owns that company is the former president of Real Manage. Does that sound familiar? Real Manage is the management company in this community. And I thought, well, that seems a little close. Why does the president of the management company own some of the homes or have these deed transfers with Brogdon? And so I actually got this man on the phone, and we reference him in the article, Gary Griffin, and he said that he was friends with Chris Brogdon. He did own his own company that managed properties, and he invested in helping build some of these homes. He said he did get his money back, but he said they weren't selling. And so therefore, when they brought in that second builder to build the rest of the community, he ended up being president of Real Manage here in Georgia for several years. He's recently retired, but he says that they had no actual financial say in the HOA, and so he feels that kind of recused him of any weird commingling of profits and things like that. But in this case, he said that they ran out of money, and he says that Chris Brogdon is trying to make back what he invested into this community, but we could not get Brogdon to speak with us.
And there's still this Securities and Exchange Commission judgment, right? And when we say on the screen investment scheme, those aren't our words; those are the words of the SEC, right?
Yeah, there's some serious accusations in the full lawsuit that the SEC filed, and that judgment came down in 2015. And you can see in the court filings, it's really been going back and forth of them trying to get the money that was owed to investors. And so to this day, still shows that he's owing near $50 million back to people.
Absolutely fascinating. Anastasia Olmos, investigative reporter with Atlanta News First Investigates. Thanks for your reporting and your ongoing investigations of HOAs.
Thanks for tuning into Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. For more on this story, go to atlantanewsfirst.com and click on the ANF Investigates tab. You can listen to more award-winning investigations wherever you get your podcasts by searching Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First. And tune in Sundays for an hour-long episode of Uncovered, where we highlight some of our biggest investigations that impact our communities.